Some people feel uneasy when they are alone. Silence makes them restless, and they quickly reach for noise, conversation, or distraction. But there is another kind of person who experiences something very different when the world becomes quiet. For them, solitude does not feel like emptiness. It feels like space to breathe, think, and finally hear their own thoughts. If you are someone who feels calm rather than lonely when you are alone, there may be something rare about the way your mind works. Many people assume that enjoying solitude means someone is shy, antisocial, or disconnected from others. But psychology suggests something else entirely. In reality, people who are comfortable being alone often possess a set of uncommon psychological traits that allow them to experience the world differently. Their minds tend to process life more deeply, more quietly, and sometimes more clearly than those constantly surrounded by noise. They are not avoiding people. They are simply not dependent on constant stimulation to feel whole. And if you recognize some of these traits in yourself, it may explain why you have always felt slightly different in social spaces. Not better, not worse, just wired a little differently. Here are some of the rare traits often found in people who are truly comfortable being alone. For many people, silence feels uncomfortable. It creates a strange pressure, as if something is missing that must be filled. But for those who are comfortable with solitude, silence feels completely natural. Instead of emptiness, they experience it as a kind of mental clarity. In quiet moments, their thoughts begin to unfold more clearly. Ideas, reflections, and observations that would normally be drowned out by noise suddenly become visible. This is why people who enjoy solitude often become deep thinkers. Silence gives their mind room to explore questions that others rarely stop long enough to consider. They reflect on conversations long after they happen. They replay moments, analyze behavior, and quietly search for meaning in ordinary experiences. To others, this level of reflection might seem unusual, but for someone comfortable with being alone, thinking deeply is simply part of everyday life. And over time, this habit creates something powerful, a deep understanding of themselves and the world around them. Because when a person is not afraid of silence, they begin to hear something most people miss, their own inner voice. People who are comfortable being alone often develop a habit that many others overlook. They become careful observers of the world around them. While others rush into conversations, they tend to pause and watch first. They notice small details in people's expressions, tone, and behavior. This doesn't mean they have nothing to say. It simply means they prefer understanding the situation before becoming part of it. Because of this habit, they often pick up on subtle things others miss. A shift in someone's mood, a hidden tension in a conversation, or the unspoken meaning behind words. Their quiet presence allows them to gather information naturally. They learn more by listening than most people do by speaking. Over time, this creates a kind of social awareness. They begin to understand patterns in human behavior, and while they may not always be the loudest person in the room, they are often the most perceptive. They see the deeper dynamics beneath everyday interactions. This is one reason solitude feels comfortable to them. Their mind is naturally tuned to observe, reflect, and process. For many people, being alone for long periods can feel draining. They gain energy through social interaction and activity. But people who are comfortable with solitude often experience the opposite. Being alone actually restores their mental energy. When they spend time alone, their thoughts settle. The noise of the outside world slowly fades. This quiet space allows them to process emotions and experiences at their own pace. Instead of reacting immediately, they reflect and understand. Solitude becomes a place where their mind resets, a kind of mental breathing room. That is why, after time alone, they often return to the world feeling clearer and more balanced, not disconnected, but refreshed. To them, solitude is not an escape from life, it is simply where they regain their strength. People who are comfortable being alone often develop something that many others struggle to build, a quiet form of emotional independence. This does not mean they never feel sadness, doubt, or loneliness. It simply means they have learned how to sit with their emotions without immediately needing someone else to fix them. Instead of escaping uncomfortable feelings, they tend to reflect on them. They ask themselves why they feel the way they do. Because of this habit, they slowly build a strong inner foundation. They begin to trust their ability to handle difficult emotions on their own. This emotional stability allows them to move through life with quiet confidence, not because everything is easy, but because they know they can face it. And while they still value meaningful relationships, they do not rely on constant reassurance. Their sense of stability comes from within. Perhaps the most fascinating trait of people comfortable with solitude is something that cannot easily be seen from the outside. They often live in a deeply active inner world. Their mind constantly explores ideas, memories, questions, and possibilities. Even when they are sitting silently, their thoughts may be traveling far beyond the moment. This inner world becomes a place where creativity grows, where reflections turn into insights. It is also where they process life experiences more deeply. They often connect patterns that others overlook. Because of this, they may sometimes feel different from the people around them. Not isolated, but quietly living at a slightly deeper level of reflection. And this is why solitude rarely feels empty to them. Their inner world is full. So if you are someone who feels calm when you are alone, someone who finds clarity in silence rather than discomfort, if you tend to observe more than you speak, and if solitude restores your energy instead of draining it, then there may be nothing strange about you at all. You may simply possess traits that are less common in a noisy world, because sometimes the people who understand life most deeply are the ones who spend enough time alone to truly listen.